Hey there everyone, Video Game Cabinet here, and tonight we're doing my picks for the top 10 most overrated video games of all time. Now, this is my list, my opinion. Really, all these games on here are very beloved by many people, many gamers for generations. But in my opinion, they are just massively overrated games. So yeah, as I begin the list, the first couple games on the list might be okay, but again, just massively overrated. And as we get just a little bit further down, I just don't like these games, and other people love them. I gave them negative reviews, but I don't see what other people love about them. And really, it's especially as we get towards the bottom. Like, you might see some games that are a little bit technically worse than others, in my opinion. But as we get to the bottom, it's more about how distant my opinion is of how lackluster they are compared to how other people think how great they are. But yeah, this list may change over time. We'll see as I play more games in the future. I don't know. But anyways, without further ado, this is the Video Game Cabinet's top 10 most overrated video games of all time. Coming in at number 10, Metal Gear Solid 2, The Sons of Liberty. Okay, got a lot to say about this one. I played this back when it released in 2001. I was so hyped up for this. The first two Metal Gear games on the MSX, which I just replayed earlier this month. Those were great games. Then Metal Gear Solid, which was actually the first one that I played on the PlayStation 1. That game was an absolute masterpiece, and I was just so hyped up to play Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. And this game should have been a fucking 10 out of 10. It had all the makings of a masterpiece, the gameplay, the polish, the graphics, the atmosphere, everything was incredible. And what did they do? One thing just fucking ruined this game, and that was Raiden. Switching the lead character from Snake after the first hour or so to Raiden for the rest of the, 10 to 15 hour or whatever it was game, and making Raiden the star of the show. Oh my God, was that like just taking the biggest shit in the most perfect cereal ever. I couldn't believe it. And people look back on this game like it's great. And at the time when it came out, the only critics that addressed the Raiden issue was EGM Magazine. All the other critics were giving it perfect scores. And EGM had the balls to say, no, we have the most unlikable character here. And they were right. This game was just so fucking overrated, really because of Raiden, solely because of him. I didn't have a problem with the long cutscenes. I didn't have a problem with the rest of the story. It was all really neat stuff, but Raiden ruined it. I swear to God, he brought down a would-be 10 out of 10 down to, from what I remember, I should go back and replay this, but I would not give it more than a 7. Is it still a good game? Perhaps. Maybe a 6 or a 7, I don't know. Maybe it's okay. But Raiden really drags it down. Raiden is the most unlikable lead character in any video game I have ever played in my life. And he really just took a big shit on this game. And people do not talk about it enough. And I don't know why this game is so fondly remembered today, as a masterpiece. No, it's not. Raiden still fucked it all up. Now, one quick honorable mention, or rather dishonorable mention, I want to give while we're on number 10 here, Metal Gear Solid 2, and that is Metal Gear Solid 3. This one, maybe we'd give it the number 11 spot. Haven't played it in a long time. I played the vanilla version, Snake Eater, and I sold that one a long time ago. I haven't played the Subsistence version yet. The Snake Eater version, though, that one I remember they kept the same overhead camera, but, took away the radar, which really hurt the gameplay, in my opinion. I heard it was fixed in this one, though, so I'm kind of curious to go back and replay this on the Subsistence version, see if it's any better. However, though, the story to me in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was just kind of boring. Like, the cutscenes went on forever. You know, people talked about part 2 having long cutscenes, but part 3, like, I don't know. I just remember Revolver Ocelot twirling around his guns for like 15 fucking minutes, and all these other scenes where they just go on and on and on over codec, and you know, the story just got boring to me, you know, and it was all about the Cold War. I didn't find it very interesting. The snake that you were playing as was Big Boss from before, not the snake that we knew and love from the original PlayStation game, the original PlayStation 1 game. So, you know, I thought that Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was pretty overrated. So yeah, just want to give that one a dishonorable mention. However, we are not done with the series yet. I promise this will be the last Metal Gear Solid game you see on this list. However, Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. This was the last one that I played. I never played Part 5, the Phantom Pain, but Metal Gear Solid 4 is my number 9 most overrated video game of all time. And why is that? The game started off utterly perfect. You're playing as the snake that we all knew and loved from the original PlayStation 1 game. But he was older. He was aged by the fox die virus. Really cool stuff. What did they do to fuck this game up? This was the big finish to the Solid Snake saga that was going to answer all the questions that we had for the last, you know, decade or so of playing this series. And how did they answer everything? All of our hotly burning questions that we had for 10 years. They injected nano machines into me. I shit you not. They say the word nano machines in this game more than the F word in Goodfellas or a Quentin Tarantino movie. I swear to God, every plot hole or question or whatever that you had in this series was all answered with, they injected nanomachines in me. Nanomachines, nanomachines, nanomachines. Why is Vamp a vampire? Nanomachines. Why is Big Boss still alive? Nanomachines. Like, everything, you know. I played this back in the late 2000s. It's been a while already, but I remember just being so disappointed that I was like, we've waited all these years just for that? You know, especially when Ocelot lost his arm in the PlayStation 1 Metal Gear Solid, and then they reattached Liquid Snake's arm to him. That was like a big burning question we had since the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2, and Liquid's arm was taking over Ocelot's personality body. How did they explain that? What did it all mean? Nanomachines. They injected nanomachines into him. That was it. That was so fucking disappointing. And people look back on this game like it's great. I'm like, do you not fucking remember that they just copied and pasted like the same answer to every question that we had? Massive, massive disappointment. I could not believe it. Very, very overrated game. Overall, is it an okay game overall? I don't know. I'm going to have to play this one again, you know, to do a full review on it. It's been a good, like over 10 years since I've played it, but, yeah, it really, really disappointed me from what I remember. Coming in at number 8 is Red Dead Redemption 2. I played through this one back in, when it first came out in late 2018. Now, the first Red Dead Redemption on PlayStation 3, I played that one back in 2010. I loved the first Red Dead Redemption. I thought it was excellent. And this sequel was really just boring and disappointing. You know, like the first Red Dead RDR was really emotional, really powerful. This one, the story just never grabbed me, I swear. And, you know, I just didn't care towards the end when the main character got tuberculosis. And then the epilogue at the very end with John Marston doing all the chores and all the jobs on his farm. I thought that was boring. And ultimately, this game, you know, every mission you start off like walking slowly or riding your horse for 10 minutes, talking and walking, and it's really slow and the story never grabs me and it's just boring and really slow paced, and like you slowly reload your rifle and slowly get on the horse. I don't like games where they just mimic every little inch of reality. I play games to escape reality, and they really just went way overboard with the slow-paced realism with this one. Now, the first Red Dead Redemption, that one was, a little bit, deliberately paced, but like not so much. This one, they went way overboard with it. The first Red Dead Redemption, I rated that a 9 out of 10 when I played it, back in 2010. But this one, I beat this right before, writing reviews on my Instagram and all that a couple of years before I started doing that. So, but from what I remember, I don't know, maybe like, I remember thinking at first, maybe it's a 6, and I was talking to more of my buddies about it, realizing how boring it was, and I was like, maybe 5, 5.5. I don't know. This one, it was just boring. It never grabbed me. It was really, whatever. Maybe a 5.5 out of 10. I don't know. Really just meh in the middle for me, and just really slow and really boring and just really, really overrated. Coming in at number 7 is Psychonauts. I did a video review on this channel for this game about a year ago when I played it. So this is a more recent playthrough in 2023. I thought this one was just extremely overrated. It didn't sell too well at the time, but it garnered a strong cult following later. And you know what? I can see why this game did not sell well, because it kind of sucked. It was weird. I appreciate it trying to do something different. And, at first it seems like there's some decent platforming, but then, partway into the game, they just start getting into these weird, like, puzzles that are tedious and obscure that you got to do. Specifically, the Milkman Conspiracy and the Glorious Theater were honestly just painful to go through. I gave this a 5 out of 10 in my review, but this game really just kind of sucks the more that I think about it. It just got boring. Like, you don't have to collect everything, but it really is a big collect-a-thon, and it really, there's some decent platforming at the beginning and towards the tail end, but it's too little too late. I really did not enjoy this game very much. I thought it was very overrated. I thought it got boring. I can see why it didn't sell well, and I talk more about it in my review that I made last year. But yeah, this game, I just cannot believe so many people like see this as a hidden gem, as one of their favorite games of that generation, and I'm just like, oh my God, I just don't see it. I mean, it's boring, it's weird, it's got obscure, tedious puzzles. I just don't get it. This game was just not for me. Occasionally some stuff was a little bit cool here and there, but not really. It was mostly just weird and boring. I really did not like this game. Coming in at number 6 is Beyond Good and Evil. This one I also played last year, just before starting my YouTube, so I reviewed it on my Instagram. This one really disappointed me. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10 in my review. I know, this game got rave reviews when it came out. It has a cult following. It also, like Psychonauts, did not sell well, and I definitely see why it did not appeal to the masses. It certainly did not appeal to me. I just thought it was boring, The story follows this human girl and her uncle, who's a pig, on a distant planet which is being invaded by an alien race. There's some conspiracy going on with the aliens and the government of the planet or something. The story and the characters never grabbed me at all, and this was just not interesting to me at all. And thankfully, it was short. I knocked this one out quick, but and there is some variety to the gameplay. There's some good variety in there. There's different stuff you can do, but none of it in particular is very good. The racing segments are all right. The stealth is okay, and the combat is just whatever. It's also easy to sometimes get lost to find where to go next, but and also I did not care about photographing random creatures, so the boring plot is really what made me not care about what I was going to do next or where I was going, and just made progressing through the missions feel like a chore most of the time. There was a good level of polish over the graphics and everything, the smooth animation, the frequent checkpoints. So that was cool, but like the rest of the world of Hillis is what it's called, the planet, was just not interesting to me at all. It was boring, and this game is just monumentally overrated. Coming in at number 5 is Jet Set Radio Future for the Xbox. This was another one. I played it last year, so it's a recent playthrough, early 2023. And I reviewed it on my Instagram. The original Jet Grind Radio, that one I only got through like the first level or two, so it's not going to make the list. I have to have beaten the games for them to make my list. But yeah, this one has its own problems that I'll talk about in a minute. But Jet Set Radio Future, this one, it starts off on a good foot. Let me tell you, the original one had some fucking broken ass, janky fucking controls. And this sequel actually does a lot to improve on that, believe it or not. So I'm gonna talk about some good things first. They simplify the tagging by doing away with the extra button inputs that you had to do in the original, and they were very finicky, so that's good. They simplify the tagging, that's good. And also, when you jump on a rail, you instantly pick up speed, and that's great, because in the original, you just sat there on the rail, and it was so frustrating and so hard to pick up speed before jumping on the rails. And this one, they give you an instant boost, and it really helps streamlines things a lot. Now, that is where the improvements stop with this super, super overrated game. This Jet Set Radio Future is a boring, tedious, and just frustrating experience. Navigating the levels is often a pain. The platforming is usually awful and rarely decent. There should have, even though you pick up speed when you jump on a rail, there really, really should have been a button to reverse the direction when you were grinding on rails. That led to a lot of problems. And especially there's a boss battle where you're fighting this 4-legged robot on top of this giant building with a bunch of flights of stairs. And it's just so super frustrating to land on the rails and get off in the middle of them and try to climb again. And if you jump in the wrong direction, you cannot reverse. And it just, oh my God, is it fucking pulling my hair out? I swear to God. There's a lot of bottomless pits in the skyscraper level that thankfully only take away a little bit of health, but they still suck in a game like this. The tricking and skating is also very limited. I wasn't expecting Tony Hawk's Pro Skater here, but this was just really shallow. You just spray graffiti on a bunch of spots. You need to check your map, which breaks the flow of the game, and chase people to knock them down. That is it. Chapter 5 looked like it would mix up the gameplay a little bit with this ball passing game, and all you did was grab the ball once and run around a simple track a couple of times. That was it. There was just so little gameplay variety in here, and the little bit of gameplay, it just fucking felt broken, dude. It was just janky. And there's a little bit of interesting platforming in the final boss level of the game, but even that was just too little, too late. And I really tried to like this game. The art style and the graphics were just incredible, just like the first one. But the rest of the game was just really shallow, and just the gameplay sucked, So I actually gave this one a 4 out of 10 in my review last year. Just monumentally overrated game. And if I ever finish the first one, that one is also making the list. That game from the couple levels that I played sucks too. So yeah, just very overrated couple of games here, especially this one, because I actually, tortured myself to sit through the whole thing. Coming in at number 4 is Control, which I played on PlayStation 5. This one I beat back in February of 2022, so it's pretty recent, 2.5 years ago. But I wrote some notes on my Instagram about my thoughts, and this is just was so disappointing. After hearing so much praise about this game, I was shocked at how boring and incoherent the story was during my roughly 10 hours to reach the end credits. The combat was a little bit cool, but got repetitive. The Metroidvania elements were poorly done, with all the environments looking so drab and similar. And the story moves so slow, with muddled dialogues, fucking totally forgettable characters, and the game expects you to do a bunch of lore reading. No thanks. I couldn't understand the fucking story, and I don't want to. It was so fucking boring. The story told through the cutscenes was boring enough. I don't want to have to go back and read a bunch of fucking lore in the menus. And I gave this a 4 out of 10 in my review on Instagram a couple years ago, and I wrote, if I'm being generous, this game just really was boring. Sometimes the atmosphere and the graphical effects were a little bit cool, but this game was just a big letdown. I remember IGN gave this game like Game of the Year back in, I think, 2019 when it came out, and like, oh my God, it's already been a couple of years since I played it, but I remember the janitor that just starts talking like blah, 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 and like, you're looking, you can't understand a word he's fucking saying, and like, and then you're looking for your brother or something who's lost, and when you find him, it's weird, it doesn't make any sense, and it just, I thought this shit was fucking boring, man. I'm sorry, like, I don't know why people love this game. It really was just, the story just super fucking boring. Trying to be mysterious, but just so slow. Couldn't get into it all. Tried. And it was just massively overrated. And that's why it's taking my number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3 is the little indie game Journey. Now, oh my God. Yeah, I beat this one back in April of 2022, so somewhat recent, all 45 minutes of it, if that. This game was just so fucking short and simplistic, and IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and like, people still look back on it as so artful. It was so simplistic and so minimalistic, I could hardly call it a fucking video game. You're just floating around the desert. Like, I mean, it looks a little bit nice, I guess, like, but you're just a scarf floating around the desert. Like, you can't even really die or nothing. You just float, and like, that's it. It is the most simplistic fucking, like, really nothing to talk about, like, quote, game I've ever seen. This was massively overrated. Like, when I thought about it, like, if I can even call it a video game, I mean, I don't know, like, I think I decided to rate it something like a 3.5 out of 10. Like, it just, but I don't know. I mean, even like no rating, it's hardly even a fucking video game. Like, I just, why on earth did IGN give this a 10? Why on earth do some people apparently think this is like something so meaningful and deep? It's nothing. It's a fucking scarf floating around in the desert. Fucking no gameplay, no nothing. Just floating. Like, why is this considered so great? I don't get it. Absolutely, I got. That's why I'm putting this at number 3. It's just, it's nothing. Coming in at number 2 on my most overrated games of all time is Persona 5 for the PlayStation 4. I played this back when it came out in 2017. And I wrote a review on my Amazon account, so I have some notes to go over. I put 113 hours into this game, and my God, was I disappointed after hearing the rave reviews, and people still talk about this game like it's one of their favorite JRPGs ever. Like, I put Journey as number 3. Maybe that game is barely worse for just how minimal and nothing it is. But like, if we're talking about how distant my opinion is for such a big game that a lot of people put in their top few favorite JRPGs of all time. This has to be my number 2 most overrated game of all time. Okay. This is the first and absolutely the last Persona game that I would ever play. It started off promising with this premise of changing people's hearts with a time limit, giving you a sense of urgency to complete all the palaces. However, I would estimate that 50 of the 100 plus hours that I put in to playing this game was watching a bunch of teenagers texting each other, repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. I'm not exaggerating, and over. And just hanging out to eat sushi. I do not give a fuck about that shit. And that literally took up, I would estimate about 50 of the 113 hours that I put into this motherfucker. I'm dedicated, so I wanted to give this the full chance, but like, oh my god, did that fucking drag down the pace of the game. I hate that much social shit in my games. I want complex plots about, something interesting, like some of my favorite JRPGs of all time, like Xenogears or Lunar or Final Fantasy, not fucking, this shit, just a bunch of teenagers literally texting each other and hanging out for sushi, and like, it just, not they're deciding about what time, to meet after school and do their laundry and all this other stupid shit that I don't care about literally half the time, and I gotta say, the music got extremely repetitive over the 100 or so hours that I put into this. I swear to God, it felt like they played the same 5 songs over and over. There was one song that I really liked. It's called Blooming Villain, that they played very occasionally. But, the rest of the time, like, I swear to God, that song that you hear up in your loft, your apartment where you sleep, they will not stop playing that, and that will forever be stuck in my fucking head because I fucking hate that little jazz beat. Oh my god. But the battle system was good. There were some good spots in the story early on with seeing some of the bad characters get their comeuppance. It's been a while, but I remember, I think it was like the third guy with this mob boss that you change his heart, and you don't get to see him change afterwards. Like, you don't see his character change like you did with I think it was the PE coach and somebody else at the beginning. So that was disappointing. And at the end, it's been a while. Like I said, I played this back in 2017, but I remember when you find out who Morgana the cat is, whether it was a he or she, I don't remember. Like, I couldn't tell. Like, I remember being very disappointed by that and just being like, my god, I waited like 113 hours just to find that out. Like, my god, that was lame with Morgana and who he or she was. It just, I don't know. I settled in on giving this a 4.5 out of 10. Like, there were like some, good things about the game, especially early on, but it was dragged down by some serious lulls. And this is just absolutely like the most overrated RPG I've ever played. And, for my favorite genre of all time, the JRPG, this being the most overrated JRPG ever, that is why I am putting this at number 2 of my top 10 overrated games. And my number 1 most overrated game of all time, and also probably the worst game on the entire list, and that is Super Mario Odyssey. Wow. As a longtime Mario fan, I have loved the entire series, since I was 5 years old. The original Super Mario Brothers just instantly captivated me and made me fall in love with video games. And then, the trilogy on the NES, and then, Mario World 1 and 2 on the Super Nintendo were just fantastic games. And Mario 64 just changed the face of gaming forever. And I really liked Sunshine. I thought that was cool. It had a couple of small issues, but I still thought it was a great game. And then Galaxy 1 and 2 took the series to new heights. Galaxy 1 and 2 were 10 out of 10s in my opinion, and the two best Mario games ever made. And boy, did the quality of the series come crashing down with Super Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch. I was shocked at how little platforming and parkour there was in Odyssey. I got a little over... This I played back when it came out in 2017, so it's been a while, but I've written a gang about this on internet comments and YouTube comments, so I have a lot of notes that I can go over here. And I know that I beat about 500 of the 900 moons, and I would say maybe a little less than a dozen of those were like an actual challenge and fun parkour, and half of those, maybe like 10 to 12 moons that were actually good, were like copying the gameplay of the original back in 1985. And oh my god, the other like 480 something moons that I collected were just absolute fucking filler. I swear to God, like, you would literally either like talk to somebody, throw a rock, stomp on a bump on the ground, or whatever, and you got a moon. Like, oh my god, like, there were no challenging levels to traverse, just one simple task after the other. Hell, you could even buy moons. I swear to God, almost all the moons took literally no work at all. And like, except for, there were like 17 levels, you know, as opposed to like so many in the other games. 17 levels, and some of them were actually really fucking small and empty. I couldn't believe it. Except for one. There was one level at the very end of the game called Darker Side of the Moon that had a bunch of challenging parkour and was a big level that you went from start to finish to get the moon at the end, and it was really challenging, and I loved that final level, and I was like, wow, why did they not make the rest of the game like this? The rest of the game, the other 16 levels are just absolute filler trash with just like the simplest shit that you could do. That I cannot stress. I have loved this series since I was a kid for its parkour, its platforming, it's going from one end of the level to the other to nab that star or that flagpole or whatever. And, you know, I swear to God, like, you would think with this game, like, okay, they have 900 moons. Like, you know, if at least 100 of them are good, you know, that'll equal, you know, the 100 good ones that were in 64 and Sunshine. No, literally, like, I counted maybe like a dozen moons that were any good, and that was it. Like, the rest of them, it just absolute filler bullshit. Like, Mario, like, would just get moons for fucking doing nothing. I swear to God. Like, just no challenge, no parkour, no nothing. Just, this was not at all what I wanted from the series. And people look back on this game like, oh, it's one of their favorite platformers ever. Like, I've seen it top lists of people's favorite platformers, and it is absolute trash. I cannot believe it. Like I said, I beat this one back in 2017, so I remember thinking at the time, like, I don't know, like probably like a 3.5, honestly, out of 10. Like, I really fucking hated this game. Like, this was bad. I was shocked. Like, what made the series so great before, they just took it all away in fucking Mario Odyssey. And that is why Super Mario Odyssey is my #1 most overrated game of all time. You know, especially in comparison to how other people, like the critics, were giving it 10 out of 10s. Everyone was saying it was great. People still say it's great. And, like, I fucking thought it sucked so bad. Oh yeah, and the music, after how amazing the soundtracks were in Galaxy 1 and 2, the music in here, a lot of it was just, most of it was just fucking forgettable, and it sucked. The Cascade Kingdom with the dinosaur, that had a really good song, and the rest of the soundtrack was just fucking forgettable. It sucked. I couldn't believe it after how great Galaxy 1 and 2 soundtracks were. There's one video on YouTube. It's called Super Mario Odyssey, It's No Masterpiece. The guy who made that video, It's No Masterpiece, like, it's a 2-hour video. It's a great watch. I agree with everything he says 100%. Like, he took the words right out of my mouth. Like I agree with him. Like, when I saw that video, I was like, yeah, that is absolutely how I also feel about the game. It's just full of filler and just no platforming, no parkour, no nothing. Like, not at all what you expect from this series. So, you know, that's how I feel, and Super Mario Odyssey is the most overrated game of all time. So there you have it, guys. That was my top 10 overrated video games of all time. Just counting down the list once again. Metal Gear Solid 2 because of fucking Raiden. And I gave an honorable mention to Metal Gear Solid 3 because I thought it was boring. Loved the beginning of the series, but really started to go downhill with that one. And then number 9 was Metal Gear Solid 4 because of the fucking nanomachines. And number 8 was Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm sorry, I just thought this one was boring. Number 7 was Psychonauts. I just thought this was weird and got boring and tedious and a lot of collectathon. Beyond Good and Evil was number 6. Again, I thought it was boring. Like, the story was just weird and just nothing about it was very good. You know, I could see why this one didn't sell very well. Number 5 was Jet Set Radio Future. That I only played a little bit of the first Jet Grind Radio. That one had some broken-ass fucking controls. And then this one also had its own fair share of janky-ass gameplay and just really, really overrated despite the cool art style. Number 4 was Control. This game was fucking boring, you know, from start to finish. Number 3 overrated game was Journey for just how minimalistic 45 minutes of floating around the desert like as a scarf. You know, I don't know why that game is considered so great. And number 2 was Persona 5 for, like, you know, half the game was good. The other 50 of the 100 hours was teenagers texting and repeating and hanging out to eat sushi for 50 hours out of the 100 hours that you cannot skip. And it, oh my God, did it, you know, really drag down the game with some serious lulls. And my number 1 most overrated game of all time was the extremely disappointing Super Mario Odyssey for its sheer lack of platforming, parkour, and literally just getting like 99.9% of the 900 moons you got literally just by stomping on a bump on the ground or talking to somebody or fucking buying the moons or getting them for doing nothing. Like, oh my God, was this game just fucking, just all overrated games, you know? So, that's my list for now. I'm sure I pissed a lot of people off, but, you know, that's my opinion. I suffered through all, 10 of these games, or 10 or 11 of these games from start to end credits. And that's why I can officially say that I think they are just massively overrated. And, I'm sorry if I pissed you off. Sorry, but not sorry. But these games were fucking overrated, okay? So, yeah, that's it for tonight. That's Video Game Cabinet's top 10 most overrated video games of all time. And have a good night.